We're now live, Chair.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Councillor Haug, and I will chair this meeting tonight. This is the South Area Committee meeting on the 4th of September at 7 p.m. We have received one apology from Councillor Levine. Let me just check quickly who's present. City councillors are myself, Councillor Haug, Councillor Lee. Well, I'm sure he'll join in.
Yeah, he said he might be a bit late, but he will be joining.
Okay. Yeah. Councillor Ashton.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Davies.
Hello.
Councillor Dryden. Yeah, I've seen him. Councillor Flaubert.
Hi.
Hello. Councillor McPherson.
Certainly here.
And Councillor Young.
Hi.
Yeah. And County Councillors Beckett.
Present.
Councillor Goodlife.
Here.
And last but not least, Councillor Slatter.
Present, sir.
Thank you very much. Also, thank you to the team who's running the show tonight. I mean, that's Area Committee Lead Officer Dave Prinsep, Committee Manager James Goddard, and meeting producer Boris Herzog. And other officers and speakers will be introduced when it's their time. So if anyone has any problems hearing me, then please let me know or let us know, for example, via the chat. A bit of housekeeping. So you'll find copies of the agenda online. Please mute yourself or at least be as quiet as possible and wait until it's your turn to speak. If you would like to ask a question, you can do that via the chat or just make yourself get my attention one way or the other. And please, be conscious that this meeting is automatically recorded. So if you appear on the screen, then this will be in the recording, and the meeting is also broadcast live via the council's website. So by appearing in this meeting, you're giving consent to being recorded. So let's just go through the different agenda items now. So we can move on to agenda item 2, unless somebody already has a comment or question, which is not the case. So do we have any declarations of interest for tonight's meeting? Okay, that's not the case. Well, I see Imi, yes, I think we've received your question. So I think that will come in the public question time. Let's do agenda item 3 then, the notes of the 12th of June meeting. So we can't really call them minutes because we can't make decisions. And that's why we can't really approve the minutes either. But are there any comments on those minutes? In that case, we can record them as accurate. And go to the committee action sheet, which follows the matters arising. And this begins with, yes, Councillor Haug to invite police to attend. I did that, and I received confirmation that we will have a police officer present. I don't know if he's already in the audience. We'll just quickly check whether, oh yeah, I can see Sergeant Sutcliffe. Yes, thank you very much for joining us. So we will have also in the public forum, there will be a few items on CCTV and antisocial driving that might be of interest to you. We will get there in a few minutes. Then there was one action point for Councillor Davies to follow up on issues with respect to CCTV in Red Cross Lane, Greenlands. It's also related, I think, to Imi's question later. So I will leave it to you and Karen maybe to briefly comment on it now, and we can come back to it later. Councillor Davies.
Yes, so the contribution to this is based on an email from Karen Jelly, who's the Community Safety Manager, who is on the call this evening. And basically, the ASB team became aware of issues in Greenland's Red Cross Lane areas in March, following an invite to attend a meeting organised by the Residents Association, concerns about antisocial parking, driving, and the possibility that those are related to criminal and suspicious activity, including drug-related activity. So the City Council installed a temporary CCTV setup. It's on the lamppost on the junction of Greenlands Estate and Red Cross Lane, and Imi may want to comment on this later on, but everything I understand is that CCTV has been deemed to make a significant improvement in terms of tackling ASB. And I suspect that they would very much like that to become a permanent installation, but obviously that will have to go through due process in order to see if that's acceptable or not. That is about the limit of my knowledge. If Karen is on the call, I don't know if she wants to say anything else.
Yeah, I can add to that. So our redeployable CCTV, the temporary CCTV, is reviewed every 3 months. So the Greenlands camera is due for review. And due to the number of reports that we've had to the police and to the council's ASB team, we're of the view that we'll keep the CCTV in place for a further 3 months and then do another review after that. But yes, Councillor Davies, you're absolutely right in terms of us being able to secure new permanent CCTV. We need extra funding for that. So funding to purchase the camera and the equipment, for example, the pole itself, but also additional funds yearly to manage the maintenance and monitoring of that camera. And at the moment, there isn't a budget available for that. What we have done this year is commission a review of all of the CCTV in the network in the city, which is over 200 cameras. And so a review is being undertaken of all those cameras in terms of their location and the ASB and crime levels to determine whether or not there are any locations that are no longer needed, and if other cameras can be deployed or if new cameras are needed. And we'll be using that as an evidence base for any changes that we make in terms of that CCTV network in the city.
Well, thank you very much. There are two items then that refer to Addenbrooke's Road and antisocial driving. I would like to keep that actually for the end, but maybe Councillor Slater wants to update us on the item on Whittles Avenue. You're muted. Still muted. Yeah, it's a hard button to find.
It is when I
Yep,
push you out of the way, I'm afraid, yes. Yes, as I said at the time, I had been, this is a long-running saga, I'm afraid, from summer last year, and the scaffolding is still up. I have been able to contact the people responsible for commissioning the works. This is 2 adjacent blocks of flats under the management and owned by different people. The officers concerned have been helpful. Apparently the installation of solar panels, which is being combined with this, or the maintenance of them, has caused problems. There are delays. If the members, the public who was concerned about it, thinks there still are dangers of the public on the pavement, I would like to know that. But I think at the moment it's just one of those things that just is taking a long time to sort out.
Great, thank you very much. I don't know, does anyone have any comments on that right now? There's still the item also on the action sheet about how to report overhanging branches and things like that. I actually haven't received an update on it before this meeting, but I mean, I constantly remind people on social media on how to report these things, so maybe we could still keep asking if the council themselves could maybe advertise these links a bit better. Yeah, I'm afraid I don't have any particular update on this. But that means we can maybe now come to the item speeding and antisocial driving, especially around Addenbrooke's Road. And I'm very happy that Mr. Plank has joined us, who can certainly provide us with lots of information, but maybe not a solution today, but I mean, there's always hope. So Mr. Plank, thank you very much for joining us, and the floor is yours if you would like to update us.
Just to clarify, I'm representing the Tumpington Residents Association in what I say. I did take the precaution of listening to the recording of the asking of the question in order to be sure that I would answer it properly, and there are actually 2 parts to it, and I have provided a report which has been circulated with the agenda, but on the understanding that not everyone will necessarily have had the chance to read it, I will go through it in a little bit, but not too much detail. The 2 parts are, firstly, failure to stop misuse by drivers of the Cambridge Biomedical Campus's no-through roads, And the second is driver behaviour, including speeding on Addenbrooke's Road. And I'll take those in turn. Many people don't know that the campus's roads are not part of the public highway. They're private, no-through roads for the campus's use only, which are being misused, in our view, on a large scale because the CBC, the campus, has failed and is failing to stop rat running by members of the public. The relevant traffic regulation order, the prohibition of driving order, bans through driving on the campus's main roads. That's basically all of the roads. The organisations on the campus responsible for enforcement are the Cambridge University Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust and the development company Prologis. They're the people who own those roads. They're required by a condition of their planning permissions for the phase 2 expansion of the campus to provide and operate efficiently an automatic number plate recognition system and notify the police of vehicles which use the roads as no-through roads. The police are responsible for actual enforcement, that's issuing tickets. Now, by the way, we are satisfied that if the police are notified by the relevant agencies on the campus of infringements, they will issue tickets. That's based on our extensive experience of this issue. Fortunately, there is a benchmark. When the prohibition of driving order was updated in 2017, the campus undertook an assessment of rat running. This was over a period of time, and it wasn't for full days. It was between 9:30 and 11:30, 11:30 and 13:30, and 16:30 and 18:30. And it was only between two of the main entrances to the campus, that's Addenbrooke's Road and Hills Road. Nevertheless, it found that 1,680 vehicles travelled each day between those entrances in less than 10 minutes. Now, 10 minutes isn't the algorithm on which notifications are made, but it's a proxy for it. So that's 1,680 vehicles. Now, if you include the third main entrance, Robinson Way, and you allow for the fact that this was only done at certain hours, you're talking about 2,000 or more drivers each day misusing the campus's roads. From 2017, the police have issued statistics of tickets issued, and these are over 3-month periods, which are not quarters, they're 3-month periods. And there have been 23 periods since 2017. In 13 of those periods, 0 tickets were issued. 0 tickets were issued, remembering 2,000 or more rat running each day. The highest ever number was 203, and the average per 3-month period was 36. Yet we're aware that within the campus, because we have consultation arrangements with other local organisations with the campus, we're aware that assurance is being given that the APNR system is fully functioning and operational, I quote. Whereas the opposite seems to be the case. Now, there has been a slight improvement in the last quarter, which was published by the police after this report was produced. Glory, glory, 304 tickets were issued, not for the unfortunate drivers, but 304 tickets. Now, that is the highest total ever. However, if you compute it, that's 3 per day, compared with just over 2,000 per day rat running. The police aren't convinced, that's our assessment, that the system is operating fully and effectively. They say that activations are very sporadic, which is polite speak, I think. The effects on the campus's neighbours are important. The failure to enforce the traffic regulation order is significant. It creates a sense of driver impunity and encourages driving rather than using public transport or active travel, and that includes for short journeys. As a result, it significantly increases traffic levels on neighbouring roads, for example, on Addenbrooke's Road. It's important to remember that Addenbrooke's Road official name is Addenbrooke's Access Road. That's the access road for access to Addenbrooke's Hospital. Those of us who live nearby, as I do, I live next to Addenbrooke's Road, know that many of the drivers using that road are using it as a shortcut and using the campus roads as a shortcut. You only need to stand by one of the entrances in order to observe that all these cars simply can't be going there for campus business. And it's important to remember that rat running produces risk within the campus, because the campus's roads do get very congested and on occasion get gridlocked, which of course is a risk to patients being carried on ambulances. The campus is growing fairly rapidly, and its roads are fully required to accommodate the travel needs of the campus's users. Now, this has been going on for years. The first written record that I can find in the association's files is 2016. It's long past time that it was sorted out. We have fairly constantly raised this with the campus authorities, but with little effect to date. Shall I pause there before I go on to driver behaviour and speeding on Addenbrooke's Road?
I think that's actually a good idea. I also saw Sergeant Sutcliffe appear on the scene. I mean, sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot right now, but is this, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, I mean, it's, as said, it's managed by the campus through the company that runs their ANPR system. We can only enforce or issue out the tickets that are sent to us. So having spoken to the central ticket office department that manages all the tickets, we're processing what's been sent to us.
Okay, thank you. And but already thank you to Mr. Plank, of course, for the detailed report. But would you like to continue with this? Or would anyone else like to comment on that particular issue? Okay, Karen, also Councillor Young.
Surely it's in their interest to issue notices. I mean, presumably they get some money for doing that, or do they not? Or does it go to the police? I don't know. I mean, I don't understand why they wouldn't want to do it and why there would be a resistance. Anyway.
We share that puzzlement because, you know, the campus wants their roads for their own use. And things are being screwed up, to put it crudely. Things are being screwed up by drivers using it as a shortcut. So it is in their interest to sort it out. And despite detailed contact with the campus over many years, we've still not got an explanation as to what's going wrong.
Right. I mean, has anyone talked to them from the councillors here on the line? I mean, I'd be happy to make contact myself and just try and find out a bit more what's going on.
I think that would be a great idea. Would you like us to put that as an action point in our minutes? Okay, fantastic. Yeah. Thank you very much. Councillor Beckett, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I share concerns about this as an issue. What concerns me as well, though, is this isn't the only place around the city where I've heard planning stipulations for this sort of thing are not being enforced. I know the Beehive Centre has a similar situation where they're meant to have a bollard that stops people transitioning between Newmarket Road and Coldham's Lane. And again, in that area, that planning, sorry, I've got the word for it, the condition is not being discharged. I wonder if there's anything that can be done if this is also a planning condition, is there anything that can be done at the City Council level to make sure these planning conditions are upheld? I have to confess, planning isn't my area of expertise, but it just seems like this is a problem that's repeated in several areas, so we should try and tackle that somehow.
mean, is there anyone who can answer that question directly, or who should we ask that question?
We have raised this on numerous occasions with the planning service, and have become frustrated in doing so. Now, that's not a criticism. I mean, they've got more than enough on their plates. The prime responsibility is down to the campus authorities to enforce it. But it doesn't seem to us that planning enforcement is a strong way of dealing with this issue, I'm afraid.
Okay, Councillor Davies.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, in answer to the question, has anyone spoken to the campus about it? Yes, I have spoken to the campus about it. I am as mystified as David as to why they cannot get a grip on this when it's clearly in their own interest to do it, as well as the interests of you know, the surrounding neighbourhood. And the CPC Limited are making very positive noises about wanting to be good neighbours. This would be a very concrete way of demonstrating a commitment to that principle. And in terms of why planning compliance have not dealt with it, possibly because they are resource strapped, but I think what this does is just point out the ridiculous morass of layers of governance we have, and you know, just the total lack of clarity about whose responsibility it is to deal with problems. And unfortunately, that's something which we're not going to resolve in a South Area Committee call. So if Councillor Young wants to follow up with CPC, I can tell her who I've spoken to there in the past. But it's going to take a concerted effort pushing on a lot of different points of leverage, I think.
I mean, we had, maybe can I say the Queen Edith Council as well inquire. I think it would definitely be good to get an update and collect this information for the South Area Committee meeting. And we had a representative from the biomedical campus here once before, and we thought we could make that a more regular thing to get updates on the biomedical campus in general. And that could be something that we could also ask here in this committee, if that's an idea, if people think that's a good idea. But I can also see that Councillor Slatter has her hand up.
Yes, I was only wanting to assure Councillor Young that if she did indeed raise these issues, she wouldn't be at odds in any way with other councillors, in terms that we have raised it in many ways in many places. And I think an inquiry from you as to what's the problem would be very useful for everybody, because there appears to be a certain amount of just mechanical machinery automatically registering there's a problem, and then people automatically referring it to the police. That's what people expected when the cameras went up, and it hasn't happened yet. So please do go ahead, and if you want to talk to us about it beforehand, that'll be fine. But I'm sure anything you ask will be perfectly sensible and not at odds with anything we've already asked several times. So thank you.
Okay, Councillor Macpherson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just very briefly, I won't take up a moment. I would say they're completely overwhelmed by the numbers. Talk about 3,000 vehicles here. Yeah, that's an extraordinary amount. I'm also interested that I wouldn't have thought it would have been referred to the police at private ground. It's just been explained. And I sort of don't get the difference between that and, let's say, the Beehive Centre, who don't refer their fines to the police. They engage private companies to do that for them. So if there's 3,000, let's pick that out of the air because David mentioned it, and I've seen David many times and I trust his figures. Therefore, why are they not employing an external agency with those sort of numbers who would gaily write to all those 3,000 people and make that's how they make their living, to collecting those fines? So I'm sort of a bit at loss why we would expect Cambridge Police, to be fair, to chase up that number of errant motorists when really it's private company, it's private ground. If they want to police it, fair play to them. I can understand that. Then perhaps they need to employ an external company to do that for them.
Yes, thank you. Okay, Councillor Ashton.
Thank you, Chair. I think maybe it sounds wrong, but we need to be mob-handed here. I think our problem in the past is we've been very gentle with them. So we've had individual councillors who go and make a request to them. I think the way around this is that, in a sense, Queen Edith Trumpeton councillors, county councillors, the chair of the Highways Authority, need to make an appointment to go in person with the Residents Association representative as well, and let them know that their action is causing immense problems. Because I think as long as one councillor goes along, we all know what happens sometimes. They're very polite, they're very nice. We'll get back to you. But I think if you had, you know, a mob-handed approach of 8 councillors and representatives going along in front of them to say, look, this cannot carry on. We need some kind of resolution by yourselves and a feedback. I think we do better than picking on one councillor to go along. Sam's done the best. Philip has done the best in the past. I know other people have, but I think, you know, we need to now be more, in a sense, in their face about this as well, and not as polite as we've been.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Thank you. Mr. Plank.
I just wanted to comment on the enforcement agency. The prohibition of driving order does specify that the police are the enforcement agency. So the campus doesn't have discretion there. And I don't think it's a matter of resources for the police, because there is a special unit, which your colleague has referred to. There's a special unit which has made very clear that if they're given the notifications, they will issue tickets.
Okay, I don't see any more hands up, but is the conclusion from this that we will, that the Queen Edith councillors will get together and come up with a plan, maybe just like as has been suggested, and report back at the next SAC? Okay, Councillor Beckett.
I was just going to say, yeah, I'm very happy to write to Michael Moore and those as well. I do wonder, as Russ said, whether all of us writing at the same time might have slightly more effect. If we fill their email boxes, we will know how effective that can be at times.
Well, I was going to suggest a meeting and just to discuss it. Yeah, so if you,
okay.
Yeah. And David, if you could let me know who you've spoken to as well, that'd be great.
Okay.
I'll put my email in the chat.
In the chat. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's, yeah, fantastic. And if you think it makes sense, I mean, maybe we can get in touch as well to see if we should invite somebody to one of our next South Area Committee meetings. But I think we've concluded the matters arising item, unless I've missed anything. So if that's the case, then please speak now.
The Addenbrooke's Road speeding, which is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Of course, Part B. Yes.
Yes, this I know. I know the member of the public who asked this question and who lives alongside Addenbrooke's Road, and like me, and we experience, you know, bad driver behaviour, including speeding, in very significant amounts. And I refer to it in the report as the boy middle-aged racer conduct. That's not intended to be sexist. It's just, you know, the way people refer to people. The boy middle-aged racer conduct. You know, some of the behaviour on the Addenbrooke's Road is really quite extraordinary, and some of the speeding is quite extraordinary, including at late hours, normal hours, and so on. Now, this, of course, spreads off the Addenbrooke's Road onto adjoining roads, like Hobson Avenue, for example. Now, because it's been a problem, we've been in touch with the police over a number of years, seeking a survey. And we were spurred to do this by one of our members, a very enterprising person, who lives alongside Addenbrooke's Road, and he carried out a week-long survey of vehicle speeds in March 2021 using a fixed industrial radar system. So this is good quality stuff, and it's good quality information. And that showed that out of outgoing vehicles on Addenbrooke's Road, that's coming away from the campus, at the Hobson's Brook Bridge, less than a quarter were obeying the speed limit. almost 2/3 were exceeding it. It was a 40-mile-an-hour limit at that time, exceeding it at the level of 51 miles an hour and above, and nearly 12% were exceeding it at 41 to 50 miles an hour. The highest speed recorded was 79 miles an hour. Now, eventually, the police did a survey, a speed survey on Addenbrooke's Road between Glebe Farm Drive and Trumpington Place. That location is significant because it's on the western side of Shelford Road, and I'll come to that in a minute. Now, that speed survey was eventually reported to us, and I'll just read out the information that we were provided. Eastbound traffic count approximately 47,400 vehicles, average speed 37 miles an hour. Westbound traffic count approximately 30,980 vehicles, average speed 40 miles an hour. These figures evidence that largely there is compliance with the posted speed limit, that is the 40 miles an hour at that time. Now, we know, and I think it's widely known, that averages are misleading in this context, and the location of the police speeding survey is significant here because at that point, at busy times, there is a deal of slow-moving traffic waiting to negotiate the traffic lights at the junction between Addenbrooke's Road and Shelford Road. So we asked for some fairly basic information in terms of the highest decile and quartile speeds. And we asked, can we see this data, please? The response, we were told, quotes, that sharing all the data is not something we would normally do, as quite often people would draw their own conclusions based on parts of the picture. Well, yes, but not a good reason for not providing the information. Anyway, on the advice of the police, we made a freedom of information request, making clear that the highest decile and quartile speeds only were being asked for. And the answer that we got was basically, following your request, I quote, searches were conducted at Cambridgeshire Constabulary for information relating to Addenbrooke's Road. These searches failed to locate any records or documents relevant to your request. Accordingly, I have determined that Cambridgeshire Constabulary do not hold the information you have requested. This, of course, was unsatisfactory, if not to say extraordinary, because data like this should not go missing, but also data like this is subject to a normal statistical package, a standard package, which would give you highest decile, highest quartile, median, which of course is much more reliable in these situations than average, but we were stuck. And after some gnashing of teeth, we decided that our priorities had to go elsewhere, like trying to get speed limits on the roads, because we're still in a situation where the speed limit between Hawkston Road and Shelford Road on Addenbrooke's Road is 40 miles an hour. And amazingly, between the Hawkston Road junction and nearly into Trumpington High Street, Trumpington Village High Street, is still 40 miles an hour as well. And these are heavy residential areas where the speed limit should be significantly lower than that. So it's an unsatisfactory story from our point of view, I fear.
Yes, I see Councillor Slatter's hand up.
Thank you. Yes, that's extremely helpful, David, because almost this time last year, I had a meeting with highways officers and put these very points to them in the context of the new county council policy, which we have managed to get, of a default 20 miles an hour in new residential areas, which you'll be well aware of. The nonsense of that stretch of Hawkston Road from the traffic lights into town being 40 miles an hour and then 30 is clearly to be challenged. And one line that I took was that as soon as Osprey Drive is completed And that means, for those not dealing with all this detail, the new access to Trumpington Meadows, new residential area, will be directly from opposite Addenbrooks Road. When that happens, it's clearly the time to make the 30-mile-an-hour limit up to that traffic lights. The officers agreed in principle, but we're clearly wanting to look at it in the future. The future is nearly here as that regards, and this meeting of this committee is extremely helpful to nudge me, and I hope with the support of Councillor Beckett, to revisit that. It was with Nigel Egger, by the way, Alex, to revisit that and take up where we left off. So as far as I'm concerned, that should be some help. It won't cure the boy racers, whether middle-aged or not. But we do at least have more reason to challenge it. I think one of the residents has suggested that even having white lines that try and guide motorists into one lane sooner, rather than trying to race alongside one another before the road gets narrow, might be a thing to consider. But the main thing is, of course, the speed limit. And I think if we did it at that time, for both that stretch of Addenbrooks Road and that stretch of Hawkston Road leading towards the city from the traffic lights, when very often people are going from 0 miles an hour, would be the best approach. It's my suggestion, but it would be great to hear what you think.
Thank you. It's Karen, then Alex.
Yeah, could I just answer Councillor Slash on that one, if that's possible? I've just got a point to go on that.
Okay, let's yeah.
Sorry to nip ahead of you. Yes, Philippa, you're exactly right. We are actually looking at speed limits all across the city at the moment with a bigger 20-mile-an-hour programme, and that one is already on the list to be coming down in speed, because yes, that very much does need to happen. I was discussing that literally the other day.
So we have him on record, folks.
But actually, I mean, one of our officers has been doing a lot of work on this. It might be able to turn to ask him or say that we'd commit to it now, but I wonder if for a future South Area Committee, it'd be good to get him to come along and talk through the plan of 20-mile-an-hour speed reductions in the city. I'm not going to commit to doing that because I don't know whether he'd be happy to do it, but I think if so, I think that would be quite useful if other people would appreciate it.
Okay, I mean, in that case, I will wait for you to trigger this.
Okay.
Yes. So, but
feel free to ask I waved my hands out of turn. Sorry.
If you want me to invite somebody, then please let me know. Okay, so now it's Karen.
Yeah, it was just a suggestion, really. There's the opportunity for residents to come together to form what's called a community speed watch, and that's where you'll get training from the speed watch coordinator and also get access to the right kit, essentially, to carry out speed checks. And you can do it on roads that are 30 or 40-mile-an-hour speed limits, and it would mean that as residents you'd be able to undertake checks at the times and dates that you would like on the roads that you would like. And that, because it's a verified scheme with the police, it also means that that information that's submitted can help to inform police enforcement in the area in terms of speed checks. And so I'll put the details for it in the chat, but it's just something to consider whilst the kind of longer term solution of reducing the speed limits is still going on. There's an opportunity for residents to get the training and the kit to conduct more regular speed checks in an area. And I think for other areas where it's present, just having that presence as well of someone kind of with the right kit on the road tends to help reduce the speed limits too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Okay, Mr. Plank, I mean, maybe you already know whether this has been considered.
Yes, on that point, the asker of the question has actually been trained in the Speedwatch scheme and has found it a fairly frustrating experience. And rather than me going into any detail about that, I'd suggest that Karen contacts, if possible, that particular individual, who I'm sure would give a very full account of the difficulties of actually organising a Speedwatch campaign. The point that I wanted to raise was on the 40-mile-an-hour limit. we think it is really important that the 40-mile-an-hour limit also applies to Addenbrooke's Road from Hawkston Road to Shelford Road. The speed limit on Addenbrooke's Road from Shelford Road to the campus has been reduced to 30 miles an hour. So it's anomalous that the rest of Addenbrooke's Road is with a 40-mile-an-hour limit, and with people coming off the motorway and so on, my word, don't they exploit that?
That was exactly my point, David. It is trying to get the 30-mile-an-hour from the new traffic lights, all that new bit of Hawkston Road and the remainder of Addenbrooke's Road to be 30. Right. That's what the officers have discussed and considered possible, and now I think may well be on the agenda, according to Councillor Beckett.
Thank you. Good.
Okay, thank you very much, in particular to Mr. Plank for this detailed report. I mean, I would like to give the last word, I mean, if he wants it, to Sergeant Sutcliffe on this issue, but I think a lot of suggestions there, but what's your view? I mean, what might work or not?
I've sought some advice around this. It's quite a complex issue. The main issue sits with the local authority around road safety. The guidance I've been given is a road should look like the speed it is requested to be driven at. So if you put a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on a road that looks like you can do 60, the chances are you're going to get someone driving at 60. So that means that if that's the case, it needs to be engineered with whatever needs to be in place to reduce that speed down. Whether that's speed humps, islands and bollards, road markings, whatever. So it's not a straightforward just change the speed signs, because you won't get compliance with that, and you'll invariably end up potentially having more collisions, because even though the speed limit is reduced, people will read the road and not the signs, and will maintain that higher speed. And so people pulling out of side roads expecting a car to be travelling at 20 or 30 miles an hour, when the road looks like you can do 40 to 60, means that car they're pulling out in front of is actually approaching much quicker. So it's quite an in-depth area to look at, and it sounds like it is being addressed and being discussed, and hopefully that'll be resolved anytime soon.
I mean, maybe I can ask a naive question then. I mean, why not install a speed camera
there? You could install a speed camera. We know the static ones will work for just for people to slow down and then speed up again. You'd need to impose the average speed ones, and that's not something I could arrange or look at. That needs to come from the local authority, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Beckett maybe has something to say on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is actually a really interesting one, because if you do change a speed limit, say from a 30 to a 20, without putting in any additional measures, you do only get a small drop in speed. You get about a 1 mile an hour drop in speed. But actually, if you look at the statistics on it, it does show that results in 6% less casualties. So it is kind of interesting that while you might not always get compliance from, it still can actually, and does, by the statistics, lead to less accidents. So there are kind of multiple different ways to look at this. On the speed cameras front, it is something that I keep going back to. I believe it is actually the police that do implement the speed cameras. I know we have a quite a small number in Cambridgeshire actually compared to other places around the county. I was talking to some officers about it the other day as to whether we could increase those, but I don't quite understand why, but Cambridge does seem to be slightly more reticent to have them than some other areas. We've seen large swathes of London now actually turn to 20 mile an hour, all being average speed camera enforced. I don't know if anyone's been to Westminster recently or any of those areas, but even really large roads, you literally cannot drive at 30 miles an hour. It's quite interesting how it's changed. And obviously we've seen Wales as well. Their default speed limit now pretty much everywhere is 20 miles an hour rather than 30. They've done it nationally, and it's now only by exception that places are 30 mile an hour. So it's interesting to see how lots of things are changing on this, but I do think we probably do need to think about it all very carefully and talk to lots of people as we go forward.
I mean, thank you very much. Are there any more comments on this particular issue? Because if not, then I think we can move on to the open forum. So thank you very much for everybody who's contributed to this agenda item. And I think I'm now in the hands of James, because 2 questions apparently have been sent in, which I haven't even seen yet. So they've come at short notice. So maybe we should start with Imi's question. If you don't mind, maybe you can put it on the screen for us. Or is she actually, sorry, if Imi is present, then maybe she can ask this question herself.
I think she may be present, Chair. I think she may ask for someone to read it, but if Imi wants to speak, it's no problem.
Yeah, I can see her. Imi, are you listening? Okay, I mean, if it's okay, maybe for you to just briefly either read it or put it on the screen for us.
Do you have it?
I do.
If you could read it, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, no, I can, in that case, I could do it. I've got it here. So it's from Imi, the coordinator, Red Cross Area Neighbourhood Watch Scheme. So can the Cambridge City Council temporary CCTV be permanent, as it had an enormous positive impact on the whole neighbourhood and not just Greenlands, Cambridge? And she provides quite some impressive numbers. I don't know if I need to read. I mean, if you want me to read them, I can, but quite impressive numbers that the CCTV has resulted in quite a significant drop in footfall and also in nighttime. Yeah, I think that is actually the Neighbourhood Watch Scheme has been invited to cover Nightingale Community Garden, as the people operating in Greenlands have displaced to there since April. And the ones operating in the park are the ones who are doing drops, dealing, smoking, heating drugs, and meeting up with vehicles, motorbikes, and so on Greens prior to CCTV on both the Greenlands estate and highway. So I guess Karen is in the best position to answer that question, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I think it's similar to what I said earlier, really. So we, as I mentioned, all of our CCTV is reviewed after 3 months, and this Greenlands camera is due for review. And because of the reports that both the council and the police have received, our view is that it will remain in place for a further 3 months, after which we'll do another review. But in order for us to secure permanent CCTV cameras, we need additional funds to purchase the camera at the pole, but also yearly funds to monitor and maintain the camera. And at the moment, we don't have a budget for that. What we are doing is doing a review citywide of all the CCTV to determine whether or not there are any locations where existing cameras are no longer needed and so can be relocated, or if new cameras are needed, and we'll use that to support a case for further funding, and obviously we'd have to see whether that would be approved, but at the moment we're not in a position to agree permanent cameras. We are doing a review and we have arranged for the temporary CCTV to be there for another 3 months.
Okay, thank you. I mean, Imi, would you like to comment directly on that?
Just thank you for the CCTV. It has been absolutely a lifesaver around here. Thank you.
See, we can make a difference. Hooray!
Thank you for reporting. I mean, it's, when we get reports in ourselves, the police, and that's when we know there's hotspots and issues, and we're able to put things in place like this to help address it.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Young.
Well, what about Nightingale Park then? If everyone's going from Greenlands to Nightingale Park, I mean, is there a problem at Nightingale Park now then?
So I have passed Imi's email through to our problem solving coordinator. We do know that CCTV does displace people because they know they're being monitored. So I've passed that through. It's something that the team would be looking into as to how we address the issue. So it's something that now that we've had that information come through from Imi, which is fairly recently, we'll look at how we can address that.
Okay, Councillor Davies.
Yeah, there is a significant problem now with the migration of ASB and Dealing in particular to Nightingale Garden. The new team who have taken over responsibility for the garden have had a visit, I think, from the community police officer. They have been talking to the ASB team about what they can do. They've put in for an environmental improvement programme grant to be able to put in some defensive measures there. I think, you know, if one were going to try and think about this positively, it would be great if this delivered some meaningful youth activity for the ward, as well as just shunting teenagers around from one place to another, because that's clearly what's going on. And there isn't anything for our young people to do, and this has been a frustration for a long time. Some of the conversations the Nightingale gardeners have had with young people in the gardens suggest there may be an element of older teens compelling younger children to do stuff because they will have a lesser sanction if they get caught. It's really quite an unpleasant situation that's evolving there at the moment. My understanding is both the police and the ASB team are thoroughly up to speed with what's been going on. I don't know if you can confirm that or not, Kevin.
Yes, I've been shared into some emails. We have done some patrols in the area. I'm aware that our PCSO was there and was speaking to the people in the garden. Yeah, we are swinging by as and when we can. Is there a new pavilion or something being built there at the moment? Am I correct in thinking that? Will that get any CCTV built added into that, which would assist?
No, I mean, I think what we're hoping is that with increased footfall at the pavilion when it opens, and with the new team at the garden starting to run more activities there, because while it was changing from one team to another, there wasn't as much going on. Just sort of increased eyes on will deter use of it, but there's no CCTV attached to the pavilion.
I mean, the garden, I think, is now being locked at night time. It's a lovely garden.
It has been. But the problem is, it's very easy to penetrate through the edge.
And I think they also walk around the back of the park, don't they, where it's a bit more overgrown, some bushes, and you can get into the undergrowth. It is on our radar. We will swing by as and when we can. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, any more on this issue? I mean, Councillor Davies has her hand up, but I guess that's the old one. So maybe we can move on to the next question. So I guess I'll have to leave it to James to pick one of the remaining two.
Yeah, just going to that now, Chair. Oh, has Councillor Ashton got a hand up?
Oh, sorry. Yes, Councillor Ashton, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just want to back up on what Sam said. When we install CCTV cameras in one area, the effect is it's moved into another area. So one lot of people cheer because it stopped the problems, and another lot of people who didn't have problems then get the problems. And so we just move it around all the times. And so I agree with Sam, you know, that money was taken out of our youth activities, and we need to be addressing longer term what we can do with regards to providing better youth facilities, because all we're ever going to do is have meetings where we say, can we have CCTV cameras? Can we have more policing in that area? And then it moves round again, and we will have a constant dialogue. And we've had it in Cherryington, it's now in Queen Edith, and it will carry on moving. So I think we need to clearly state that, you know, CCTV cameras are not an answer to this problem. That they're a help, but they are not the answer. And we need better youth facilities and money being found to say, how do we do that? How do we get people involved? Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sam.
Point well taken. I mean, of course, CCTV is also what residents usually call for. You know, they can then see that some action has been taken. But yeah, obviously, it only deals with the symptoms. That's absolutely correct. Yeah, in that case, who's next, please?
I can't see anything in Democratic Services, Chair. So the second question I've had is from a local resident. I think this is regarding Fawcett Primary School. It's more a direct police related question, so it might be worth saving until that item. And the third question I was expecting, although someone asked to join, I've not received a question from them and I can't see anything in Democratic Services, so I don't have any more general questions, Chair.
Okay, I mean, is there anyone sort of hiding among the guests who wanted to ask a question? Because if that's not the case, then does that mean we can move on to policing and safer neighborhoods? And of course, you can always send me questions if you're listening and you want any more information, so feel free to email me as the chair. In that case, well, thank you very much for everybody who's contributed to this discussion, and we've already touched upon several items, that are related to the next agenda item as well, policing and safer neighborhoods. I don't know, has there already been any talk between Karen and Kevin about who would like to go first? I think it would make sense probably that Karen goes first with her report, and then we will leave it, we'll leave the last word to the police. Is that okay with you, Karen?
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay.
Yeah, so in terms of the update from the community safety team, the report outlines how we take proactive action, where we've had reports of ASB on nuisance behaviour, and how we work closely with other organisations like housing providers and the police when we're tackling complex cases, looking at preventative work that's for. In terms of the action since the last report, our team have been working with partners to tackle nuisance and ASB in multiple locations within the ward when they're reported to us, and taking tenancy enforcement action via the courts at 2 addresses. We've also chaired several multi-agency meetings around different locations, including Wolfston Way and Queen Edith's. Some of them relating to concerns around the behaviour of young people in regards to some of the matters that we've already spoken about today, as well as littering and graffiti, smoking marijuana and property damage. The ASB officers have conducted drop-in street surgeries and also door knocks to engage with local residents, businesses and schools around their concerns and how they can report them, and deployable CCTV being installed where appropriate. Also, training has been delivered to community centre staff to raise awareness about creating safe spaces for young people, but also addressing that antisocial behaviour that young people might display, and that risk-taking behaviour, and creating a space safe for them, but also managing those behaviours when they arrive. There was a question from the previous meeting, I believe, around hate crime. So the report covers what hate crime is. And just to give an outline of that, hate crime is any criminal offence which is perceived by the victim or any other person to be motivated by hostility or prejudice based on either race, ethnicity, religion or belief, sexual orientation, disability or transgender identity. And the report talks about what hate crime can look like, but also outlines the specific number of reports received about racial harassment, because I believe that was part of the question that was asked, and that there's been 5 reports for the South area, with a further figures breakdown in terms of that. In terms of how to report hate crime, if people are in danger, obviously they're encouraged to ring the police, but can also report it on 101. There is also hate crime support organisations that operate in Cambridgeshire. So Stop Hate UK has a county line hate crime reporting line where people can access advice and support about hate crime. We also have a racial harassment service within the City Council where people can receive support as well.
Okay, so thank you very much. I mean, okay, I can see Councillor Flaubert's hand is up already.
Thank you, Karen, for doing this report. I actually wasn't very sure that you were our racial harassment or part of the racial harassment team of the council. So that's actually very helpful So thank you very much. It was very useful to go through the link of the Police UK that you provided, but unfortunately, within the classification under additional crime types, I went into the area, Trumpington, for example, and there were 21 crimes in June 2023, but there was no possibility to basically know what type of crimes they were, which was not very helpful in this sense. And then the figures that you presented, are they Cambridge City or are they Cambridge? Also, you might not be able to answer this question. It might be possible that the police will be able to answer this question today. But I wanted to know how many of these racially aggravated abuse actually ended up prosecuted. And if they were not, what were or are the remedies for the victims? And lastly, for the reasons that people are not reporting this type of crimes, I'm actually very interested in the last one, the perception of the police. And I wanted to know what the police is actually doing to change this perception. What kind of training are they receiving? Because if there is no trust on the police by a part of the community, we need to know why is this, and if possible, when is this going to change? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to respond to that straight away, or if maybe Sergeant Sutcliffe wants to give his report and then address these points.
I'd have to look to see what the percentage was of the positive outcomes for these offences. One of the things that prevents us from getting a positive outcome for the victims is often the victim doesn't know who the offender is. We don't know who they are, so if we can't locate them, then we can't get a positive outcome for the victim, which is obviously disappointing for both parties. But that's often a stumbling block. Having reviewed hate crimes come through to my team or to the neighbourhood team anyway, so we review them all. We do take positive action. If we can't identify who they are, we will sort of increase patrols in those areas to try and offer some reassurance. Not sure how to answer the one about what we're doing to change perception. Is there a specific community or area that doesn't have trust in the police?
Yeah, Councillor Floward.
Is that a question for me?
Probably.
Okay, well, it's we have well documented evidence that the police is a racially institution, especially with the Black community. So in terms of the residents in Trumpington, or some of the residents in Trumpington, we have the perception that you do not listen, that you don't take these type of crimes seriously enough, and that there are no any remedies for this to change.
Okay. I guess it's down to education from both sides. And if there's is there a reason other than is it like personal experience where they've found that we haven't taken the investigation of the complaint seriously? We should be explaining to those that make the calls and report it to us that we'll treat it seriously and do what we can, and explain if we can't proceed progress to a positive outcome, why we can't. We dip sample investigations for satisfaction of for the public, and we address that where we can if they aren't satisfied with how their matter was dealt with, and if they weren't kept up to date, etc. More than happy to speak to the community if they would like to to try and build a rapport going and improve the confidence in us. If you've got a community and some people that would like to speak to us, then perhaps we could arrange it.
Well, that's very helpful. I think that would help a lot. We need to engage. I think the police has to engage with the community, and we are here to help. So thank you for that answer. That's very positive.
Just a quick comment. I mean, if you want to arrange such a meeting, Councillor Floberg, for example, then report back to the South Area Committee meeting, then of course, please let me know. But we have two people, I think, Fernando, I think were you actually on the list of a public speaker earlier? So sorry if I missed you out there, but you've got your hand up, but you're frozen for me. But if you can hear me, then you can speak now. Okay, we will put him on hold, so hopefully he'll come back and then he can ask his questions. But Councillor Slatter?
Yes, if I can chip in here in advance of Fernando, then simply to reinforce what Councillor Floberg was saying. So I can immediately think of two situations where neighbours had suffered from racial abuse, and we only heard about it on the doorstep perhaps a year or two afterwards, and it had been just never dealt with. On other times when Councillor Levine and I did want to follow up on something, it was unsatisfactory. Now, the one possibility would be to keep such things on the record, and if the police do have contact details, maybe a kind question as to, has the problem happened again? Because I think the very act of reporting is quite traumatic for people. People are concerned, and this is not a community, actually, this is people, isn't it? Not a community. These are individuals who are suffering from a trauma, both in the beginning by having suffered from a hate crime, then the trauma of reporting it, feeling maybe nobody could really understand what they were saying, and then nothing until somebody else might be told and try and do something about it. Maybe some sort of follow-up, not just a survey, but actually following up on particular victims. I know it's difficult, but that might make all the difference to some individuals with my suggestion, and I'd be happy to support Councillor Floberg on any meetings, and obviously confidential sharing of any particular examples. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. I briefly saw Fernando there again, but now he's disappeared. I mean, are you around, Fernando? Okay, there was a brief moment of hope. I mean, especially, one thing that struck me as well from Karen's report was that it's obviously not just important for the victims to report, but also for witnesses. You know, often witnesses don't even think about reporting that kind of, because they are not the ones who are directly addressed. But I think, yeah, reporting is important, but also as a witness, not just as a victim, or supporting the victims, of course, in reporting if we witness something like that. Okay, I don't see any more hands up there, but I mean, I'm still hoping for Fernando to make his appearance. But Kevin, is there still something that you would like to? Oh, okay. I'm sorry, my pictures are moving around a little bit here. I thought something exciting was going to happen, but apparently not. Sergeant Sutcliffe, is there still something you would like to add to Karen's report?
I don't think so. I mean, I've submitted my report based on the information I had from last time. So unless you want me to go through that.
I mean, maybe you could. Okay, I think now we have our moment. Fernando, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
I had a range of questions. I did not want to interrupt in the middle. I wanted to kind of use the end to ask a few of my questions.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you could try to be as succinct as possible, and then we will see what we can do about it. Thank you.
Yeah. First question is this a councillor only kind of I guess meeting, because I did not know about it until a few days ago.
No, it is exactly not councillor only, so we very much welcome members of the public.
How is this how are people told about this meeting? Because I've never heard about it.
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, I posted it on our local Facebook group. I hope that other councillors are doing the same. I think the council tweets it as well, and it's word by mouth. Or, for example, our local Trumpington Resident Association, I think, includes it in their newsletters. So yeah, social media, newsletters, if you're part of a resident association. But Councillor Slater, you would like to speak to that?
Sorry, no, I was actually putting something in the chat about what I wanted to talk about regarding community safety, but not to interrupt Fernando's question.
Okay. Sorry. I mean, Councillor Floberg, were you going to say something about this issue?
Just briefly, that we should be doing more than what we're doing to advertise these meetings, because it's not enough. Many people, they just don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I try to tell as many people as possible. I also remember somebody on Facebook suggested that I put posters up at the Clay Farm Centre, which I didn't do. So maybe we could do that in the future. And I can only encourage everybody else, to spread the news about this meeting. So it's always on the City Council's website. So the next meeting will be on the 27th of November. The agenda will appear a week before. So by all means, spread the news and everybody can attend. You can watch the live stream, or if you have a question, you send an email to Democratic Services and they will then tell you what else to do. Okay, sorry, Fernando, would you like to ask any other questions?
Yeah. I had a question about, because I got disconnected from the call, I did not hear what the officer was able to say regarding how we make sure that we are following up on these small incidents.
Okay, sorry. I mean, yeah, Sergeant Sutcliffe, would you like to briefly summarize your response?
Yes, hi Fernando. So from our point of view, it was in relation to hate crimes, etc. All those investigations come through the local neighbourhood team to investigate. We will deal with the investigation. We should be updating the main parties, the victim of it, and explaining the outcomes, whether it's a positive outcome or whether, unfortunately, we're not able to proceed any further. We don't have the resources or the system in place to keep phoning back and going, has it resolved itself, has it not? We are reliant on the individual to call us back and say, unfortunately, even though you've dealt with the matter, it's reoccurred again, and then we address it again, and that is unfortunately the process we have. It is a sort of, ideally we have the regular local issues, so that we kind of know that the neighbour disputes that we regularly have, which we should be addressing, and we address that not just through the police but also through the local council as well, because we can't solve all the problems, and it may be that there's other ways we can deal with the matter, and sort out housing, etc. So it's just we don't have a process where we would just keep phoning people back. We would be reliant on someone to come back to us. Is the answer, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Could I ask something else?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Because he's completely right. I was just wondering, what would you do if your incident is not something that is as recurring, but it's still just as valuable, and you have not been told how to move forward? It is for example, a one-off that only happens once, but leaves a long-lasting mark, and you're not able to do much because of the lack of evidence.
I mean, we would discuss it with the person, what's happened. There are other things we could signpost you to get some support. It's not necessarily all about, which I'm not saying you're suggesting this, but it's not all about us prosecuting someone. It could just be educating one or both parties, or signposting some additional support, looking at improving the situation, mediation, perhaps something can be done around housing. There might be other matters. It could be that you think you're the only person having this issue, and all your neighbours are having the same issue with that one resident, and by getting together, you form a much bigger picture, which will result in us being able to take some positive action.
Okay, does that answer your question, Fernando?
Yes.
Was there anything else on your list?
Yes, but not for now. Sorry.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us then, and please join us again. Can I actually quickly ask, how did you hear about us?
I've heard from Councillor Thunder.
Oh, excellent. Well done, Councillor Flaubert, and you've got your hands up as well.
Yes, just briefly, I was going to say, actually, to Karin as well, but to answer to Fernando. Usually, when you don't get help from the police, there might be other solutions that you might explore, as taking civil actions against the perpetrators, because it's not only through the police. And usually the best thing that you can do in these cases is to talk to the Citizen Advice Bureau, for example. There is actually also a very useful website. It's called EES, and it's about the Equality Act. And basically, this is a part of the government. They will give you just some information about what kind of legislation you might be looking at. They won't give you legal information, but for example, they will tell you, oh, this act might have been breached and you might have a solution on this. So I will try to talk to my colleagues to put this website, because it's extremely helpful. I believe more helpful than what we have at the moment, which is not very helpful, quite frankly, in the council. And hopefully that will bring a sort of sense of justice to people who find themselves in this type of situations again and again and have to live with that with their lives.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Young.
Yeah, just very briefly. I mean, I would also say, although it might not feel terribly effective, like a lot of things, if the police have a bigger picture and an overview, something, it is an inducement for something to be done, even if nothing specific can be done for that particular incident. I think it is helpful for the police to know what's going on. And I would encourage, even if it doesn't result in too much or you don't feel it does, that the police are informed.
Yeah, I guess keep reporting, that's usually the advice number one. I mean, that actually also leads to my question that I would like to ask both Karen and Kevin, actually. I mean, what do you think councillors can do? I mean, is there anything where you think, okay, if only a councillor would do this or would tell us that? So for us, it's obviously very useful to know what's going on in the ward. I mean, your reports are very helpful, and the more detail you can provide about hotspots of certain types of crime, antisocial behavior, where we can then talk to residents and see what they want and the pros and cons of CCTV and other issues. But I mean, is there anything where you think that where we can play a bigger role?
Just from me, I think being the eyes and ears out there for us. I've been emailing you in the past about issues that I'm aware of. If you hear anything of concern, make us aware, and it'll help us assess the situations. I've been having regular correspondence with your colleagues in Cherry Hinton recently over a matter, and that's been really helpful because, as it's been kind of alluded to, sometimes residents and people in the community don't want to speak to the police. They're perhaps intimidated or don't think their issues are as important as they actually are. And by just feeding that into us, it will help us to assess the situations and try and make the situations better for everyone. You know, I can read our reports, I can do some scanning of incidents coming in, but if it's not reported, I won't know. And I'm not the one that's having to live through those issues. And the impact on residents can be quite horrific, actually. That we need to get a better understanding. So I'm more than happy to keep getting emails from yourselves just to let me know what's going on.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I mean, unless Karen wants to add something, I've got Councillor Ashton and then Councillor Dryden on the list.
No, it's just to reiterate really what Karen said, but also I suppose, you know, knowing where people can go to, you know, with things, for example, like hate crime, you know, there will be people that don't feel like they can talk to the police or the council, but there are really, really good community organisations there that can help and support people, not only with the challenges of knowing if or when or how you should report things, but also the emotional impact. You know, hate crime is something that has a really deep personal impact on people. You can't change the colour of your skin, you can't change who you love, you can't change, you know, these things about yourself, and yet this is happening. So, you know, we have organisations in Cambridge like the Cambridge Ethnic Community Forum, who are charities that, you know, for years have been doing anti-discrimination work. There's organisations like Nationwide, like Gallup, that support people who've experienced transgender hate or hate that's related to their sexual orientation. So I think knowing where to signpost people to is always really helpful. And also, if you don't know, ask us and we'll try and find that out for you so that you can get those messages back to people, to give them their options, and yeah, letting us know what it is that you are seeing and hearing as quickly as possible, so that if we're able to,
I mean,
work together to do that.
I mean, excuse my ignorance, but I mean, that's why we are talking about this. But is there already a link somewhere, a council webpage where there is a list of these things?
Yeah. So we've got information. There's a council web page on discrimination and harassment. There's a council web page that also talks about our racial harassment service as well. So yeah, there are links to these web pages where people can access information from our websites, but also, you know, organisations like Tell Mama, for example, that focus on anti-Muslim hate. They have their own websites, and also they often have their own reporting mechanisms into the police as well. So third-party reporting and things like that. So yeah, but the information is there on the council website as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, it's Councillor Ashton now.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to take this opportunity to put on record the thanks of Cherrington councillors to Sergeant Sutcliffe and our local police officer, Jamal Lally. We have a family in Cherrington, and I can't go into details, and they are terrorising Cherrington. And the police have done exceptional work, along with the council, to try and stop it. But what has happened is it's gone to the courts 3 times, and at each time the judges turned around and said it's best if this family stay where they are. So I feel really sorry for the police, who've done a tremendous amount of work trying to get people to open up about the problems. Residents speak to us or not. We need to realise sometimes that the police can't sort it all out as well, that they have to go to the courts. And if the courts then turn around, and believe me, the record of problems that have been caused by this family would fill a book like War and Peace. And yet it's still been deemed that this family can carry on. And for Sergeant Sutcliffe and his team, it just must be horrific that they know what's happening, they know how much is being caused, they know these incidents, and yet they cannot stop it at this moment in time. So really, I just want to let councillors be aware as well that we can do signpost everything, and we need to keep doing it. But the police, at the end of the day as well, are limited because they have to go to a court to get the action. And if the judge turns around and says, no, I'm not going to do anything, it makes life really difficult. So like I say, I just want to put on record what the police have been doing in Cherrington regards this family. They are doing amazing work and continue to do it in really difficult circumstances. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then Councillor Dryden.
Carrying on from Councillor Ashton, yeah, and I agree what he said, and also as a serving magistrate in Cambridge, we're very restricted sometimes of what we can actually do with the law. But as a councillor over many years now, I've had lots and lots of residents contact me with things that they think are going on, criminal activities in the area, but they refuse for some reason to put their names forward to go to the police, and it restricts us as councillors what we can actually say on their behalf, because if they don't tell us all the information, only just tell us what, but ask us not to do anything more than tell us, what can we do? Because I've got to respect them not putting their names on to give the police their names to go around. So it's very difficult. I mean, I hope we can just eventually get more trust out of our residents to contact the police directly than going through councillors, because they're the people that can help more than maybe we can.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I also realize we are now close to 1.5 hours into this meeting, but I also remember, I think or even several councillors last time asked, I mean, to specifically focus on bike theft in this meeting. So does anyone have a specific question on bike theft, or is there anything that maybe that Sergeant Sutcliffe or also Karen would like to share with us? Okay, yeah, Councillor Slatter, of course.
Yes, because I was just about, I started an email to Kevin Sutcliffe about something that we are trying to get started in Trumpington. I know that my fellow councillors are aware of it. It's very much in early stages, but we are investigating the possibility of getting the management and landlords who are responsible for the various new blocks of flats around our Hobson Square to work together on security and CCTV. It turns out that all but one of the blocks are managed by the same security firm, who no doubt will be very happy to tender for such a contract, but it will be very complex legally and far from easy, but I'm hopeful that something like that, in terms of the ways in which the CCTV cameras can work in coordination, and also the communication between residents who are tenants of one group or not, or of another, can pool their resources and information. If there was anybody else on this call, perhaps from Jerry Hinton, who's got experience of this, or if Kevin has got experience of such a thing being set up, that would be great. Meanwhile, I will be in touch with either Kevin Sutcliffe or somebody else he might choose to nominate in his place as the best person for me to ask to come to a meeting with BPHA and etc. This is your chance to pass the buck, as it were, or a more appropriate level of management.
Okay. I mean, cycle crime is a big issue, isn't it? In Cambridge, it always has been. Even when I joined the police nearly 20 years ago, it was a big issue. I think we're more aware of it now because people are on social media and they're sharing stuff, and it's just being sort of put in the headlines a lot more. I'm not aware of any sort of arranging sort of coordinations from different landlords, etc. We do the bike marking events around the city, and that's increasing each time we do one. We seem to be getting more and more bikes turning up, which is fantastic. It's a deterrent from being stolen, and also it assists if we locate stolen bikes. It assists in getting them back to their rightful owners because it's been registered. You can email me. I'm happy with that. I would probably pass this on to my colleague, PC Rob Tyndall, who coordinates all the bike marking events, and he seems to be well. He is running a operation to try and target cycle crime in the city, and he goes after the main offenders. So email me and I'll share it with Rob, and he will be in touch, I'm sure, to help.
That's helpful. In fact, it's not entirely cycle crime. It's also theft of cars, but possibly more worrying, it's drug dealing and the involvement possibly of county lines. So where you get a resident from one block being concerned about a van lurking and maybe taking a photo, and then a resident of another block photographing somebody going into the meter cupboard, which is a favoured location to fake drugs, apparently. Not a good idea, or there's gas pipes about, but there we are. Then those can be put together with reports to the police. That's what I'm seeking to further, if possible. Cycle crime is just part of it, and thank you indeed for what you are doing. We recognise that.
Okay, Councillor Davies.
Councillor Slatter, your albeit early stage activity
half-baked, you might say.
and I hope you'll be able to share that more widely as it emerges. And I also wonder whether there is feedback that we ought to be providing to the planning service, because after all, your developments and the ones that we're getting over here had a lot of planning activity focused on them over a very extended period. And if there are issues with the design, which we think could be improved upon next time round, it would be great to get that captured and embedded in policy. So I don't know if you've got a mechanism for taking that forward, because it's city, not county, but it would be a great shame to fail to capitalise on what learning you're doing.
Thank you for that invitation. No, I'm sure you won't regret it.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, apparently there is one more public question. But before we do that, I thought that might be a good idea to just briefly highlight that there will be a community engagement online meeting tomorrow, if I'm not completely mistaken, at 7 p.m. So apparently where people can also talk to the police. Is that correct? Sergeant Sutcliffe, I mean, do you know anything about? Would you like to highlight to advertise that?
I didn't know anything about it, but
okay.
if that's there, I'm working tomorrow evening. I can dial in if you'd like.
Okay, no, that was not. No, I'm not trying to give you more work. No, yeah, but community engagement online meeting 7 to 8 p.m. Tuesday, 5th of September. There's a link, so I guess if people Google it, your neighbourhood policing team will be waiting for you. Okay, but now the next.
Share the link, Ola. Thank you.
Okay. Sometimes I know things other people don't. Here we go. Okay, and maybe now it's time for the last, probably I'm assuming the last public question. James, is that, yeah, you've got it ready?
I do, Chair. Yes, I'll just read it on anonymise, because I'm not, if the person isn't here, I don't want to put the name in the public domain without their permission. So a parent's speaking on behalf of a child. The question is, a female from Fawcett Primary School swears all the time at me on the way to school. I think this is at the child. Can you stop her? What action should I take? Could you come to my school and arrest her? I could probably pass this email on in confidence to the sergeant if that's easier, but I'm not quite sure without this resident's permission to do so. Perhaps I could contact them first, and then if you want to give a general response meantime.
Yeah, and I guess the question is, I mean, have they reported it already? But sorry, Sergeant Sutcliffe, I mean, would you like to say anything about
that? I presume this is a bit historical, as they've only gone back to school today after 6 weeks. I would suggest that they actually address it with the school is the first point of contact. I know the schools sometimes bat it off and say if it's happening outside of their school grounds, it's not their issue, but equally they're probably best placed to do it. So I would suggest that they speak to the head teacher at the school and see if they're aware and if they can manage it before the police get involved in it.
Okay, I guess we can pass that on. Councillor Davies, your hand is still up. Is that a new one? Okay. In that case, are there any further comments or questions? Is there still anything in the Democratic Services mailbox? If
I cannot see. Just to clarify, I think the person in my last question was saying when the child is walking to school, the child is being sworn at. So I don't think it happens on the school premises. So I'm not sure if the sergeant wants to still leave it in the hands of the school or what.
I mean, and perhaps I've misunderstood it. If the person doing the swearing is an adult, then that's a different matter. But if it's another child at the school, I would suggest the school deal with it. Yes, if you want to go back to them and say, would they like it passing on to the police, and then forward it on to me, and I'll give them a call and discuss it.
Will do. There's no other emails in the available, Chair. I think we've got all the public questions that have been submitted.
Okay, thank you very much. In that case, we are at the end of the meeting. All that's left is to thank everybody who participated. I mean, the council team who ran the show. Comment on that, because if not, then I think I should just thank everybody, especially the public speakers and those who answered the questions. So thank you very much, and I think we can switch off the recording now.